Welcome to Grit, Grace, and Resilience. I'm your host, Michelle DeGrange. I'm a corporate leader, mentor, life coach in training, and a mom to what feels like 37 kids. Just kidding, only 6. Apparently, all that qualifies me to overshare on the internet. Every one of us has a story of overcoming, and this podcast is here to dig into those and talk about life and what overcoming with grit, grace, and resilience looks like. If you like things a little messy and sometimes a little unhinged, you'll fit right in. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Welcome to Grit, Grace, and Resilience, the podcast where we dive into real stories of strength, healing, and transformation. I'm your host, Michelle DeGrange, and today's guest is someone whose journey truly embodies the spirit of this show. We are talking about perseverance, grit, and what it means to really rise up through really hard stuff. So let's get into it. Today, I have the privilege of interviewing our guest, Sophia West. She is a holistic health practitioner who I got to meet and was connected through a friend of mine. And this woman had me at hello. And in thinking about starting this podcast, Sophia helped me to move past fear of something that I've always known I was really supposed to do inside. And in my conversation of getting to work with her, which I hope everybody gets to have that opportunity. So at the end of this, I'll tell you how to get connected with Sophia. She really helped me to get past that place of when I felt the fear creeping up, where I would normally pull the ripcord. Something in me shifted. And ever since, in this journey of starting this podcast, I've been able to move through that fear and just do it anyway. So today we are going to talk about from pain to power and the journey of a holistic practitioner and how she got through stuff. Welcome, Sophia.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. And I have to tell you, I could be no more proud of you than if you were my own flesh and blood. I mean, what you have done and pushing through everything, I get tingles every time we've talked. After our first session, I was like, yes, she's doing it.
I could not be in this space if the work and the session that we didn't clear some kind of energy for me to be able to do it afraid.
Well, you
So
did that. You did
thank
that.
you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you have such a story, like when you and I were talking, there were so many things that we talked about that light just went off on how do you overcome things like that? Like your story is so beautiful. And I would love for you to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do as a holistic health practitioner today.
So I'm going to try to give you, I tell everybody I don't have a 30-second elevator speech because my path has been long and wide. And as I've journeyed, through consciousness, you not only elevate, you expand. So there's so many different things, but I'm going to try to make it as brief as possible. Like you said, I am a holistic health practitioner. Like I do integrative medicine.
What does that all mean? So like for people who don't know what a holistic health
Holistic
energy
health
worker is.
practitioner is, first of all, you see the whole person. You
Okay.
just don't I was in Western medicine for 14 years in ophthalmology, and I got to this point where I was just a cog in the wheel. And I felt like, in 14 years, I saw over 225,000 patients myself.
Holy cow.
And it was just this like mill, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would be in a room with a patient and I'd feel really connected to them, and something took over, this energetic thing, and I didn't know at the time what it really was, but this connection happened. And just by talking to me, people were having these shifts in whatever they were feeling. So I felt like something was calling me deeper. So at the end of my career in ophthalmology, I decided to go back to school, and I got my national boards in massage therapy. And then I did massage therapy for a hot minute.
I love that. I use that phrase all the time.
I love massage therapy. It feels so, so amazing. But I realized for me and the people that I was working with, it really wasn't curing anything. I was getting band-aids on it. And again,
Mm-hmm.
massage therapy can certainly help so many ailments, but mainly relaxation and mindfulness is really good for it. But what I did was, while I was in massage therapy school, I was introduced to craniosacral work. I was introduced to energy medicine such as chakra balancing and Reiki. So when I actually got out of ophthalmology and went and started a massage therapy practice, 90% of my practice became craniosacral work and Reiki. And craniosacral is a medical modality.
Hmm.
However, it's very energetic. So when I say holistic, I look at the person when they come to me and I make sure that medically they're sound. And if they're not, I ask them, when's the last time you saw a doctor? And let's look at your blood work. And at the same time, I look at their energy body. I specialize in something called three body therapy. It's something that I developed that looks at the meridian, the energy body, the actual electrical framework of the body that goes through the body, like
Okay.
acupressure, acupuncture. They use meridian work. And then I look at the auric field, the energy body of the outer energy body of a person, and then I look at their physical presence, right? So holistic work is not just looking at, say, your blood work, or not just looking at how tense your body is. It's looking at the whole body and why those things are happening. So even though I specialize in Reiki and I teach Reiki and craniosacral work, I also teach these ancient wisdom studies, which is back from Atlantis. These are Atlantean ancient wisdom teachings that are actually locked already inside your body. So I'm not really telling you anything new, but what I do when I teach is I'm like giving out keys so that you can unlock what's already inside of you, this potential.
I
And
totally felt that the first
yeah,
time that we
exactly.
talked. So, I
Perfect.
mean, where in your life did you come to this space of knowing that this was what you wanted to do? Or was there like a calling inside you that you were like, this is what I'm supposed to do?
There was. So it's very interesting. There is the moment that it happened where I woke up, if I want to call it that.
Okay.
And then there's obviously things that came into my consciousness that I had buried very deep that led to that moment of waking up. But when my son and daughter, my oldest son and daughter were in their teens, I
Hmm.
can remember very clearly standing at the top of the steps of our house, and it was being a my son was being a teenager. You know how teenagers are.
Oh, yes, I have
And
one, and we're dealing with that. I mean, I have many right
yeah,
now. I feel like I have 37 kids, but my 18-year-old son
yeah.
is learning a lot of life lessons at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I always, like, I tell people when my kids were teenagers, I said, I don't do teenager. You can give me babies, you can give me toddlers, you can give me, younger age kids and 10 and under, but teenager, I didn't speak it because I wasn't a normal teenager. So everything teenagers want to do, it's foreign to me. So anyway, I was standing on the top step and we got into something, and all of a sudden, I hear in my head, I don't know if it was my own presence or a guide, I hear, when these two kids are 18, you're going to be alone, because my marriage wasn't great. And all
Okay.
of a sudden, as soon as I heard that, it was like this a shade like you would put on the window just came up over top of me, almost like the Claritin Clear commercial. Have you ever seen that?
Okay.
Where
Yep.
you take the
Yep.
Claritin and everything is clear and it's not foggy anymore. That literally happened to me. I just like my vision, like everything went up like this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I I gotta get my life together. I have got to start to be living for me. So that was the moment. That was the defining moment
I
where
love that.
everything lifted. And from that moment on, I like to call it, my homing signal went off. So this
Okay.
really deep ache that you were talking about,
Hmm.
that deep ache turned on, and I was ravenous for every new age book I could possibly get my hands on. I mean, and at the time, right after that, I'd started to go through a separation and a divorce. I didn't have any money, so I would go into the bookstore and I would go to the same book and I would just read it in the bookstore a little bit, because I'm like, this book is just calling to me. So, and that's what happened, and I just started to learn about anything I could get my hands on. So that moment has really defined my path to help others come back to themselves as well.
I love that so much. I mean, I've had that moment, and it's funny that you would have that same moment. I had that same moment when I was making the decision to get divorced after, 20 years of an abusive marriage, and
Yep.
I had that same moment of clarity where I finally had the fear unlocked of move forward.
Yep.
And And it was just kind of like that. Like I remember being on my knees praying one night of like, look, I need the balls to make this decision or help all of the pain be erased and allow me to stay in it. And I woke up so clear that next morning and was like, nope, you go ahead, write the check, pull the
Yep.
ripcord.
Yep.
So so tell me about that piece. Like I know that when did you know that you were then called to share? Like I think it's one thing when you know that you want to pursue something, but when did that shift come that you started to know that you had this gift? Like I feel like did you know it all along that this gift was kind of inside you, or was this moment of clarity like the turning point?
I think it was a little bit of everything. I think I suppressed my gifts. Now, so that moment that I just talked about was the defining moment, and then the deep ache came and this yearning to
Mhm.
find out more about life and more about the unseen. It was there. And I knew there had to be more than just surviving those really, really tough years. And I also knew that I couldn't repeat the same cycle. So that ache pushed me to explore beyond the physical world, to reach for something deeper. Just this, again, this is long, deep aching for home. Like, if you're homesick, but I didn't know what that home looked like. And that's what led me to the energy work and the holistic healing. And it actually brought me full circle back to my childhood. So by answering this call in my soul that I didn't fully understand yet, I just knew I had to follow it. And then I started to remember, like, my mom was very much in the metaphysical works. When
Okay.
I was a little girl, she wasn't, but I had a sister that died when I was 10 years old. She died of leukemia. She had Hodgkin's disease. And it was very, very traumatic for me because no one told me, no one, I mean, I knew she was sick, but no one told me she had died. And I was sitting in the middle of my living room, similar to where I'm sitting right now. And all of a sudden, this knowing came over me. And I'm like, Vicky's dead. Something's going on. And then it just started to bubble up in my stomach. And that's where my sense of feeling is. I'm an empath. So I always had stomach issues. And I always thought, why do I have these stomach issues? But I'm feeling pain and I'm feeling things coming in, and my stomach is my processing unit. So,
Well, I think that's true for all of us. They say that all of our they say, I mean, I think it's actually fact,
yeah,
right? That all of our serotonin receptors are in our gut, the majority, right? So it's that same feeling of whether we're excited, whether we're fearful. It's that butterfly feeling. But I think the majority of us, myself included, have spent the majority of my life ignoring that feeling and just, shoving it down or just stuffing it. It sounds like that feeling is what started. When did you, in that moment when your sister died and you knew, how did you move past that feeling?
um, it's hard to say because that was in my sister died in the early 70s. So I grew up with a generation of parents who didn't talk a lot about stuff. So I had to do that all on my own. And what
Which
it
is
took me
hard
back
at
to,
that age.
yeah, it was tough. It was just the generation we grew up in. And um, it took me back to a moment when I was 3 years old. And so all these memories started to flip back into my mind. When you have a situation like that, I think that it's not repressed memory, but it's like, oh my gosh, there's these puzzle pieces of my life that are floating out here. And now that I'm feeling this one makes sense. And then this one makes sense. So at 3 years old, it's one of my youngest memories. I remember being in the backyard, like in a meadow behind our house, sitting there going, God, why did you leave me here with these people? Because I lived in a very, very tumultuous house. Parents were fought all the time, threw things at each other, never hurt me, never physically hurt me as far as beating me, but always very much turmoil. And I always had what my mother called a nervous stomach, and the doctor called a nervous stomach. And looking back at that, and now that I know more about human design and gene keys and all these other different modalities that explain why we are the way we are, my energy centers are wide open. It's yes, there's a physical component, like you said, about the receptors in the gut, 100%. And at the same time, my energy centers are open. And so that I'm pulling all this stuff in. So it was something that just kept clicking and one memory after another. And then I realized, remember when I said when I was in my 30s and this thing happened with my son, the aha moment made me go back and look at my childhood, and I saw that at in 3rd grade, my doctor had my mom on have me on Valium and Xanax.
In third grade.
In 3rd grade, I went back and got all of my doctor's notes
Hmm.
because I was like, I remember something, but I don't exactly know what it was. And so this whole childhood experience was very tumultuous for me. And yet again, everything that happened in my 30s started to make me awaken more to go back and get this explanation of what was going on. So it was a journey on my own. I didn't talk to anybody, but the reason why I started to tell you about my sister was after my sister passed, my mother went really, really deep into contacting her. Like she went to hypnotherapy sessions, she went to aura reading sessions, she went to mediums, she went to automatic writing sessions, and because she had then split with my father, she toted me everywhere. So I can remember sitting in the back room listening to all these people talking and listening to my mom go through her sessions, and I'm sure that's something embedded within me that started to wake up as well. So I've kind of been around it my whole life, yet I suppressed it probably for the until I was in my mid 30s.
Do you feel like, I know you've shared very openly about your childhood and just some of the trauma and traumatic experiences, and I know you've shared that you were molested as a child,
Yes.
and it
Yes.
sounds like, I mean, on top of losing your sister, which I completely relate to because I'm in that moment, and I get why you're as a mother, why your mom started trying to find all the metaphysical ways to connect and understand. Do you feel like the work that you're doing now has healed a lot of those, I mean, highly traumatic things as a childhood, which I think we all have, and I'm sure anybody that's listening has these traumatic moments in their life, but I think so many people don't know how to move through them, or just shove them so deep that they don't, even understand the level to which it impacts them now, myself included.
It's multifaceted in the fact that so in my 30s is when I say I woke up, right? And I went on
Mhm.
this path to, find out that homing signal, what it was. A few years after I woke up, something happened to one of my children that just crushed me. And the awareness of that, I started to have more repressed memories starting to come up where I went into a mindfulness therapy situation and I was talking to a therapist and all these memories kept coming up. And that's when I put all the pieces together again and realized my father did molest me.
Mm.
And
I'm so
then it
close.
was what I feel was a long haul
Mhm.
to heal from that. And I was still in ophthalmology when I was healing from that. I think I was going back to school at the same time too. So it, I felt like I needed to get to one level of healing for me in that, um, in that way that but it's the thing that impacted me in my life before I could actually even help anybody else. I needed to get through that, and it was very difficult. At one point, my therapist, after it was all revealed and everything came back and everything was just kind of like on the table, told my kids what happened to me, told the person I was dating that what happened to me because I felt useless. I felt, even after having kids and being married, I felt like I'd be unwanted if I shared that because it was very shameful, I felt at the time.
I
And
think
I
that's
got through that.
probably a very common
Yeah,
feeling. I think it happens to more people than we talk about. And I mean, I can name, probably 20 people in my life
yeah,
that I know that
yeah,
that's happened to, and you know, in college experiences
yeah,
had,
100%.
but I didn't share them with people because it's so vulnerable. And I appreciate that feeling of shame. Like
Yeah,
it's a very, I think it's something that is, especially the sexuality component, is so tightly wrapped around our core that it can easily, I don't want to say identify, like become who we are, but it attacks that value, that feeling of, will I ever be loved, or can I be ever, was it my fault? Did I do something?
yeah. Well, when it came to light, completely light to light for me, I had a lot of anger, like, oh my God, he stole my life. I don't even know who I am anymore. I mean, I really went around going, I don't know who I am anymore. And I carried that shame that didn't belong to me because it wasn't my shame. I didn't do anything wrong. And at the same time, I'm going to say something that may feel controversial, sound controversial.
which I
It
love, by the way.
good, good. What he did out of love. He didn't do out of anger or hate. It was not a violent situation. It was obviously very misdirected. So I felt like in some levels I was lucky for that. If it was going to be something, it would be something that was done that was more misdirected instead of like, I'm trying to hurt you. Like there was no intentional hurt. And what I did to heal it, my therapist says, because my dad was still alive at the time, you've got to go confront him. So he was living someplace where I drove down to his house 3 times. I got in the driveway 2 times. I just pulled back out. Absolutely can't do this.
I
And
can't
the
even imagine.
third time, I sat there and I was holding onto the steering wheel, and I was banging my head on the steering wheel. Get out of the car, you can do it. Get out of the car, you can do it. And then I finally got out of the car and I went in and I confronted him. And it was like afterwards, you would have thought that I was a hot air balloon, that somebody cut all the tethers, and I just felt so free. I felt so amazing. And shortly after that, I found the charity that I work for, the Goodnight Child Empowerment Network, which teaches children and families how to look out for the things that people use to molest them, abuse them, get them into gangs, get them in any negative situation. So I found the charity that I'm volunteering for now for 25 years because of what happened to me. So I look at my whole situation, and what I just told you is just one snippet of how I began to heal, because it's a layer. You're always peeling stuff off.
100%.
I mean, even
Yep.
now I can't listen to something happening to other people because it just makes me shudder.
That empath component,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
right. That, and just like, oh, I knew what
Codependent,
you went
maybe,
through, right?
right?
But I look back, and there were many facets and many layers of healing with what my dad and the relationship. And at the same time, I actually have gotten to the point, and here may be another controversial thing, um, that I wake up every day and I thank him. I thank
Is
him for
that the
what he did.
process
I
of
do,
of
because
forgiveness? I mean, it,
yeah,
I think about when you say that, like it makes me think about when you talk about this strength that and determination that you've developed. And it also makes me think about when you and I talked about your marriage, right? And then later in life marrying a narcissist sociopath. Like I can relate to that because that I did 20 years of hard time is what I call it. The experience of what happened with your father. Do you think that that had a key and a part in then going on to marry a narcissist and a sociopath? Like are there tethers to those experiences that weren't healed yet that then caused that falling into or being magnetized to that kind of relationship?
100%. I would never have believed it. I remember my father, my ex-husband or my boyfriend at the time was working for my dad, and my dad did, everybody had a psychological examination, and my dad brought it to me and said, he's sociopath. He's testing as sociopath. And I wanted to hear nothing about it because I was in love. Want to hear it. But it's not
Because
just
we
about
we
love.
listen, we pay. I don't know if this is true for you, but I think back to my 20-year abusive marriage, and I listened to the words, and I did not pay attention to the actions. So I fell in love with what I wanted to hear, or what I wanted to hear, and I ignored all of the red flags,
Yeah.
and they were large.
Right. Well, going back to what you asked me, 100% it is due to a pattern that is what I like to call the root cause of something. So the root cause of what happened in my life was my father doing what he did to me and the tumultuous relationship. So I go back into something that is harmful in a certain way so that my soul can grow. So, again, from my perspective now and all the years I've been in holistic medicine, I realize that everything happens for a reason, and that these situations that we put ourselves in are actually really impactful for our soul's growth. Yes, yes, our journey is messy and it's nonlinear, and we relapse into silence and then into perfectionism, and then back into toxic relationships. But as soon as we start to reclaim our voice, and as soon as we say out loud, yeah, that happened, It wasn't my fault, and I'm still here. And it's like breaking a spell. And then the real work can begin. Then
So
the
when you say that,
unraveling.
like, I mean, especially for those who haven't walked that path or haven't experienced Reiki or any kind of like the session that I got to spend with you, can you talk through some of those pieces for people who haven't taken that step? What does that look like? How do you begin to climb out when everything is so stacked against you? How do you push through, and what are some steps people can even start to think about to get to where you are?
Well, I feel like, first of all, my journey was longer than it has to be
I love
because
that
I
because
didn't have a
I did the
guide.
same thing.
I didn't have someone like me. Like, you know, there's occasionally things come up in my life right now, and I'm like, I need me. Where can I find me? I need somebody like me. And it's hard to find that. However, the first step in anything is recognizing there's a problem, recognizing you're just miserable, or something is going on, and just recognizing it and putting a name to it. Like, I feel horrible, or I'm depressed, or I'm anxious, or there's something inside of me, or I hate my relationship, I hate my job. Recognition and awareness is number one. And then once that awareness happens, it's like somebody handing you a key and you've unlocked something inside. And then that something is going to start to take over. And then you're going to start potentially to have all these synchronicities falling into your life. Like, someone like you has this podcast, and someone out there is listening to this podcast going, that's exactly what I needed to hear right now. Yes,
I love that.
it. And
It's
so
like
then,
magic. It's like universal magic.
totally universal magic. And we're living in a time this year, especially, we're living in this beautiful time of actually escalated energy transformation. So there's transmutation, there's transformation, and everything is conspiring to let every human being on the face of this earth consciously evolve. Whereas before, it was a slow process. I feel like it's like, you know, those graphs you see when you're in school where it's going really slow, and all of a sudden it goes off the chart. That's where we are right now. So there's so many people that are ready to help and guide. And the most important thing is to find someone you resonate with, to find someone that you love their energy and it feels comfortable, and to find someone who is a guide and not going to tell you everything. Like,
I love that.
like when I've talked to you before, like, I don't consider myself a healer. The people I work with are the healers. You were the healer. I'm just your guide helping you. I heal me, but you heal you. And so when you tell somebody, oh, I want to send you to my healer, automatically you calling a person who's your guide, that's your healer, you're giving them your power. Like, here, you're going to heal me. Take my power. I don't
I
want your
love that.
power. I want you to find your power. So
I
that's
love
what
that so much because I get that at a very deep level. Like I feel like when I look back on my life, like I've known the answers inside. And I think a couple of things like that you said, like when you go through these traumatic situations and you grow up in highly, volatile situations, like it keeps this, we grow up with this fight or flight. And so it seems to make it difficult to listen to that inner voice. Like I do believe, I agree with you. I believe that we all have it inside us to heal ourselves. It's just very difficult sometimes to do on our own without that someone guiding you kind of through the process and helping hold space. I love that you said that, hold space to start unlocking those things. Like I've been so blessed to get to work with our mutual friend Haviland,
yeah.
who I hope to have on the show at some point here.
Yes.
Um, but without some of these Legos that stack up together of people that I've gotten to work with, I don't know that I would be where I am today with an understanding because I didn't know how to pull myself through that.
Well, and it's like what I talked about before. What you really don't, these people you've been working with are the puzzle pieces. So you're grabbing a puzzle piece and go, okay, Haviland fits here. You're grabbing a puzzle piece for Sophia fits there. And then you're really, what you're doing is you're repairing your foundation. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Japanese art of mending, that kintsugi, where like if a pot cracks, they take gold and they
Yes, I have one actually in my office. I have a plate
okay,
with the gold through it that my girlfriend gave me.
so
And she
beautiful. So
had a
it's
message for me. She said, "You're not broken."
No, right. You weren't. And that's the beautiful thing that happens with our foundation. Our foundation, a lot of times through childhood and other things that happen in our life and as young adults, it cracks. So what really happens is you're mending it with gold, and the gold is these people that come into your life that you surround yourself with people who reflect back your work. And even when you can't see it yourself, you're surrounding yourself with people like that, and it allows your pain to have a voice. It allows it to not ruin your life anymore, and it doesn't run in the background anymore as well. So, having people like that and coming from all different modalities, like I always say, there is no one answer. Reiki is not going to cure everything. Massage therapy is not going to cure everything. Hydrotherapy is not going to cure everything. Sound therapy is not going to cure anything. I mean, everything. It's a little bit of everything that allows you to find out who you really are and to allow your authentic self to be visible. Because, like I said, each person you go to is giving you one key or multiple keys. You're the one holding the key and unlocking. So they might lead you in the direction, but you decide how and when to open up. Does that make sense?
It makes 100%. I mean, when I think about all the work that I've done over the last 10 years on this journey to self-solve or move past these areas that I've felt so stuck in. Like I've known I'm supposed to move past this. I've known that there's a way to heal from these different things, but I didn't necessarily know how until I got connected with, people like Haviland and people like yourself that helped guide me through that. And I kind of stumbled. I mean, I agree with you, like the whole, like nothing happens by chance. How do people who don't know where to start, I know that you said you started a nonprofit where you've started this center. I would love to know more about the center. Like you've started this group and you and I talked about even, flying out and doing a session. Like where
Yeah.
do people start? Like where do they start to look?
Well, obviously, since if anyone who's listening here, we can hopefully provide some links for connection, and I do clarity calls so that I
I
can.
did one. I
Yeah,
loved it.
you did the clarity call. So what can happen is, even if I'm not the right fit for someone, I have a network of colleagues from
I
all
love that.
around the planet. I have people everywhere, and I can certainly point someone in the right direction. So if someone is starting to feel um, the signal going off inside, or the realization that there's something more to their existence than what's going on here, I will be a resource to point them in the right direction. I have no problem there. The nonprofit that I work at it's a nonprofit that is an empowerment center and health and wellness center, and we've just newly created it and redirected the mission to be a place that people can come and find themselves. We have
I love
spiritual
that
classes,
so much.
meditation classes. We have health and wellness. We do retreats here. And as a matter of fact, I mean, like I don't know if these are my books. They're sitting here because I just had a class a little while ago. These two books here in
Oh,
the
I
back of
can't
the
see them.
books,
Read it. Tell me what the names are. They don't come
When
through the.
Angels Dream, Book of the North,
Okay, that has me at
and then
hello.
United We Stand, Book of the South.
Okay.
These are the first two books in a 5-book series. And in the backs of those books are the ancient wisdom lessons that I talked about earlier. Now, the funny thing is, like, you can actually pull this thing up, pull the blue book up on
Hmm.
Amazon.
Okay.
You can read like the first 3 or 4 chapters before you even do anything. But what I would like all of your audience to do is let me get to it.
And we can put those links in
Yeah,
the commentary.
in the comments. Okay. You're going to read the preface,
Okay.
you're going to read the foreword, and you'll read the introduction. And if you get through the preface with the answers yes, then something is going off inside of you, and the answers will be there for you, because it's this ancient energy that could be locked in your soul's code that's saying, "Hey, I need to know more about what's this life about? What's this life really about?" Okay?
I love that.
Um, so yeah, so that, and if it doesn't feel comfortable to, if people are shy, or they're a little bit reserved or reluctant to share their vulnerability and to open up, opening that book up on Amazon for free, you can maybe get some answers. And then if those answers start to call you more, then pick up the computer and log on and get a clarity call with me. Clarity calls are free. So you just
Love that.
pop in, 15, 30 minutes, whatever it takes to talk. And if people can tell me what's going on, and I can say, yeah, that's phenomenal, but I have somebody else that can support you better than me. Or if it's something that would resonate with the work that I do, I will do that as well. My job is to give back and to help people that need guidance. I'm not here to become a millionaire on the work I do because Lord knows I won't be. It's not about the money. It's about really supporting people in their process of finding themselves and allowing them to basically put the first couple steps onto their soul's path in a very intentional way because they're already on their soul's path. Does
I
that
love that so much. And I feel like so many people ask themselves or have that feeling. I mean, I know for me, if I look back over my life, I can think of multiple times, like seasons of where, I feel like I had lost myself, whether it was the end of my marriage, whether it was even after my first child. And I think like the flamingo effect, like you've heard of the flamingo effect. And women, for those that haven't heard of the flamingo effect, when you see flamingos and you see that some are pinker than others, those that are mothers, the pink has been drained out of them because they've given it to their children, like I feel like with my 37 children. And then they reach this point where they start to get their pink back. And I think when you're questioning yourself, like I've had so many times in my life where I'm like, I don't know who I am now. And these seasons of different not knowing who I was with the death of my sister and this process that I've been going through with raising her two daughters and trying to figure out who I am through all of this grief, these different layers of such uncomfortable grief. That process is such a lonely, lost feeling that I think people need lifelines to try to figure out how to be pulled out of that.
they do, and they also need to give themselves permission for silence and retreat because I think that you and I talked about this, and maybe forgive me if we didn't, but it's like a lobster who is growing and growing and growing and getting ready to bust out of his shell. He has to retreat under a rock for a while because he's in pain. That doesn't feel comfortable. He's got to retreat under a rock to release the shell so that he can also be safe for a while, because when he releases that shell, there's this total vulnerability.
Yeah.
He's very unprotected. And so, like a human being, when we have these ebbs and flows, like you said, losing the pink, and it's time to regain the pink, it's time to come back out from under the rock and start to live again, we do have these moments in our conscious evolution and our own growth where we expand and then we contract. And we
Yeah.
expand and we contract. Sometimes from a human standpoint, it looks like we're building, 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 and everything's great. And then all of a sudden the world crumbles around us and we lost everything because we were in this flow and everything was going. And then all of a sudden a life event happens and just totally derails us.
Completely. Like I just experienced that. I finally got to this place where I felt really good. I felt like I was grounded. I was falling in love with my life again. And this experience with my sister just absolutely took me down to my absolute core. And I love that example of the lobster because I feel like I'm just starting to come out of that. And this podcast is really a healing journey for me to help with that process. But I did retreat for, oh my gosh, maybe even 6 months. I couldn't really talk about it in a way that I felt like anybody would even really understand. Like I was in this just dark, dark, dark space of just absolute grieving my own life in the life that I thought that I was ready to start. I felt like I was on the upside of starting to move into traveling and only, getting down to one kid who's 11 and all this freedom. And this happened. And I felt this huge grief of my own life and my loss of my own freedom and a life plan that I thought I was going to have. And it felt so selfish to me to even audible that out loud that I stayed in this really retreated space, almost like some of it I don't even feel like I remember. So that's such a great example of what that all felt like.
Well, and tell me something, and I'm going to ask you this and just feel free not to answer it, but did you judge yourself because of that?
Oh, I mean, I still wrestle with it. I mean,
And this is what I want people
it's
not.
hard.
It's hard not to judge yourself, but at the same time, I would like everyone to know that they have permission to retreat, permission to be silent, permission to have all the ugly emotional feelings because we're human beings. We are a spiritual being having a human experience, but while we're here, this human bag of emotions and hormones, they're all over the place. So we're allowed to have that, and we need to honor that because if you don't honor it, then you're going to throw yourself into another thing of going back and going, you're beating yourself up. And then you got to heal from beating yourself up. So
So
it's
much of that.
okay.
I spent so much time in that space of
Yeah.
beating myself up and feeling ashamed of all these own feelings. I mean, outside of grief of losing my sister who I grew up with, that was my person and my rock. And I didn't even feel like I could, I don't even know if I've been able to fully grieve her, right? It's been, my whole energy has been focused on taking care of her girls. And who qualified me to be able to take care of these two beautiful little souls and get them from here to there, and at the same time be grieving this internal death of what I felt like was my own life. That was so hard for me to say out loud and share because it felt so selfish that I would have those types of feelings along with all of this.
That's beautiful for you to say that and to feel it and to admit it because that's freeing because you've walked through fire. And with it you bring empathy, you bring compassion, and you will get to the point where there will be zero judgment because this is a way you use all of that energy as a healing energy to allow you to move forward. And it's going to give you the language for what your soul already knew. Okay, all that stagnant energy that was going on, this fire that you walked through, believe it or not, you've just emerged with the podcast, this phoenix that came from the ashes. So
This is
through that,
literally how it all
yeah,
has
that pain
come about.
point got you here. And what you're doing is going to help other people because you're going to have so many different people from different walks of life on this podcast. And not everybody's going to relate to every story, but they're going to relate to the energy with which you deliver it. And then you're going to have other people out there that are going to go, yes, that happened to me. And if she can do it, I can do it.
I love that. Sophia, that's 100% what I want for this, is that I have always had this this strong belief in my heart that we need people around us to help when we don't know what to do or how to take that next step. And we need to share the truth, even when it's really, really ugly or it feels really ugly. And that's how we all grow. And I am so grateful to have had people like you and so many countless women around me through this process that help pull me when I wasn't sure how to take each step, and then get to a place where I'm like, okay, now I want to help everyone else. I want to help other women who have gone through something where they're stuck and be able to help them.
Well, the divine inspiration, the universal guidance, your angels, God, whatever creator, whatever you want to talk about, guided you. And coming from the part of you that was refusing to energetically die when everything felt like it was falling apart, came the spark of the divine within you. That's sacred. And what it was saying to you all along was get up, get moving, you're not done yet. And through all of that, that's when you and I talked, I'm like, just do it. You got to do this. This is what you need to do. There's so many people. You're going to have people that subscribe to this channel and listen to you all the time, and then you're going to have these random things that happen where someone's just was I'm turning this thing on and happened to fall over your podcast when they're flipping through Apple or whatever podcast platform you're going to be on, and you're going to save lives. You are
I love you,
going to
Sophia.
save lives. And the meaning of life, Michelle, is to save one life. Now, sometimes that's our own, but if you can save one life, you've done the deed of your soul. It's a giving back. It is a paying it forward. It's when I came down here to work with this nonprofit and teach children to stay safe, we would have audiences of 50, of 144, of 200 when we would go to different schools. And I'd look out and I'm like, we're teaching them how not to be hurt, but we have no proof that they aren't hurt. And then every once in a while, every so many years, a kid would write a letter, or I'd see a kid in the store and they do. And I didn't, like, somebody tried to abduct me and I went the other way because of what you taught me. And then it came at
That's
these
huge.
times where I was ready to give up because I'm like, what am I doing here? Am I making an impact? What am I doing? And then I get a story like that. It came always at the perfect divine time that my soul needed it so that I would just keep going. And so not everything is for everybody, but this platform is you. You are you have this beautiful angelic energy of Gabriel, the announcer around you. You are supposed to reach the world, and I just can't wait to see what you do with it. I can't wait to see how far you take it.
I just love you so much, Sophia. And I'm so grateful for getting to meet you and getting to work with you. And truly, when you were like, no, you just need to do this. And let's just, you and I jump on the phone and let's just get going. I was like, okay, that helped me get over that fear of like, I don't know how to do this. And that, I mean, it really was this like, okay, all right, I'm going to do it. And here I go. And here I am. And you're right. That is the core, is if this helps one person, then that's what it is for. That's what it's meant to do. And as long, and keeping myself out of that fear of like, wait, what are you doing? You can't do this. Like, what do you have to say?
Well, remember,
That is the point,
one
right?
of the messages to leave everybody with, or to instill in everybody, is you are not what happened to you. It doesn't break you unless you let it. So you are not broken. You are what I call becoming. You're not broken, you are becoming. So hold on, retreat if you need to, because there is life and there is beauty just on the other side of pain. So if this is pain and all you see is pain in front of you, you're just going to keep on seeing pain. But if you know on the other side of pain, there's this life, then you don't have to walk alone because there's so many people out there that can help you. Just remember, you're not what happened to you. You can be free again. And you're proof of that.
I love that, Sophia. I mean, that's the perfect ending and wrap up. And I am so grateful to you. And I want you to come on again. And there's so many more things I know that we can talk about, and so many things that I think people would really love to better understand, like the work that you do with Reiki and your holistic center. Like, I would love to talk more about that. And I'm so excited to get this going. And for those of you who have listened today, keep coming on this journey with us. And if you do us all a favor, who are going to keep going with this show, is like, subscribe, put something in the comments, and let us know what resonates and how this can help and what you would like to hear going forward. That's ultimately what this is for. I look forward to getting to talk with all of you in the future, and I'm so excited to get to grow and do this journey together. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Sophia.
You're welcome. Love you.
Love you.